8 terrifying discoveries in Antarctica that shouldn't exist, yet they do. A skeleton believed to be 600 million years old was discovered in a place where humanity never imagined life could have existed. A legendary ship that had been missing for 106 years was finally found almost perfectly preserved beneath the Antarctic ice. A massive doorway sparked an explosion of speculation across the internet, with countless theories claiming it was the entrance to a buried secret base. An island that had never appeared on any map suddenly emerged after lying hidden beneath thick Antarctic ice for thousands of years. It sounds like the plot of a science fiction movie. But the astonishing truth is that every one of these discoveries is real. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Ancient History. My friends, Antarctica has long been regarded as the most mysterious place on Earth. With temperatures that can plunge dozens of degrees below zero, relentless blizzards, and ice sheets reaching several miles thick, this frozen continent was once thought to be nothing more than an endless world of ice and wind. Yet the more scientists explore it, the more they realize that beneath its frozen surface lie secrets far beyond anything we ever imagined. Some discoveries have completely reshaped our understanding of Earth's history. Others have revealed entire ecosystems that no one knew existed. And there are still phenomena that even today remain only partially explained. So what is really hidden beneath the ice of this frozen continent? Is Antarctica simply a land of snow and ice? Or is it an enormous archive of our planet's past, one that humanity has only just begun to uncover? In today's video, we're going to explore 8 terrifying discoveries in Antarctica that shouldn't exist, yet they do. And trust me, the farther you get into this video, the more you'll find yourself asking one unsettling question. How much do we really know about the end of the world as we know it? So, are you ready to begin this incredible journey of discovery? If you are, let's dive right in. 600 million-year-old tiny skeletons, a discovery that could rewrite human history. My friends, if there is one discovery powerful enough to make us question everything we know about the history of life on Earth, this might be at the very top of the list. For years, this story has circulated across numerous news websites and mystery forums, leading many people to believe that beneath Antarctica's frozen ice still lie secrets humanity is not yet ready to face. According to reports that have spread online, researchers exploring the Whitmore Mountains in Antarctica allegedly discovered 2 extremely small skeletons whose anatomy was described as being more human-like than that of any known primate. What made this discovery so astonishing was not just the appearance of the skeletons, but their alleged age, approximately 600 million years old. If that number were accurate, it would completely contradict everything modern science currently understands about the history of life on Earth. According to today's fossil record, between roughly 635 million and 542 million years ago, Earth was home only to the earliest multicellular organisms. Dinosaurs had not yet appeared, and humans would not begin evolving until hundreds of millions of years later. That means if these skeletons truly belong to humans, or even to a species with a body structure remarkably similar to humans, they would represent one of the most groundbreaking archaeological discoveries in history. According to the descriptions, both skeletons were preserved in an almost complete state. The skulls, spinal columns, arms, and legs were reportedly all intact. Even more intriguing, the bone structure was said to differ from that of known primates and showed none of the characteristics of infant remains. Instead, the proportions of the joints suggested they may have belonged to fully grown adults of exceptionally small stature. Many of you have probably heard legends about tiny people. From Europe and Asia to South America, countless traditions tell stories of a small race that once lived deep within forests or beneath the earth. For centuries, these tales were dismissed as little more than folklore and imagination. But when reports of the 2 Antarctic skeletons began circulating, many people started asking a fascinating question. Could those ancient legends have been inspired by something that actually once existed? The mystery doesn't end there. Another detail frequently mentioned in these reports is the location itself. The Whitmore Mountains lie within one of the most remote and lifeless regions of Antarctica. For that reason alone, finding anything resembling human remains there would be enough to astonish researchers and the public alike. Some theories have even suggested that an extremely ancient civilization may have existed on Earth long before the age of the dinosaurs, only to be completely wiped out by some unknown catastrophe. Others have connected the alleged discovery to stories of lost civilizations or mysterious races described in the mythology of cultures around the world. However, when compared with established scientific research, there is currently no verified archaeological or paleontological evidence confirming the discovery of two 600-million-year-old human skeletons in the Whitmore Mountains. The California Museum of Paleontology also notes that during the late Proterozoic eon, approximately 635 to 542 million years ago, the fossil record contains primarily simple organisms and a number of early soft-bodied animals. There is no evidence of humans or even advanced vertebrates existing during that period. For that reason, this alleged discovery remains a highly controversial story, one that lacks sufficient evidence to be accepted as fact. Endurance, the ship lost beneath the Antarctic ice for 106 years and the greatest survival story in Antarctic history. If the previous discovery took us into the realm of a mystery that remains highly controversial, the next story is something entirely different. This is a confirmed discovery that preserves one of the most heroic chapters in the history of human exploration. The star of this story isn't a hidden treasure or an ancient fossil. It's a wooden ship that rested silently on the seafloor for more than a century. That ship is Endurance, the legendary vessel of British explorer Ernest Shackleton, which was discovered in March 2022 on the floor of the Weddell Sea off the coast of Antarctica. After being lost for 106 years, Endurance was found at a depth of approximately 9,869 feet, astonishingly well preserved. By now, you're probably familiar with the Weddell Sea, right? It has long been regarded as one of the harshest places on Earth, with enormous drifting icebergs, fierce winds, and temperatures that remain well below freezing year-round. But to understand why this discovery moved people around the world, we have to travel back to August 1914. That was when Endurance departed from Plymouth, England, carrying 28 members of the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition under the leadership of Ernest Shackleton. Their goal was to accomplish something no one had ever achieved before, to cross the entire Antarctic continent on foot. Nature, however, had other plans. As Endurance entered the Weddell Sea, the ship quickly became trapped by massive sheets of sea ice. At first, the crew believed the ice would eventually break apart when summer arrived. But as the days passed, the pressure from the enormous ice floes continued to build. They squeezed relentlessly against both sides of the ship until even Endurance's oak hull, more than 30 inches thick and specially designed to withstand polar conditions, began emitting terrifying cracking sounds. Imagine standing in the middle of an endless white ocean, surrounded by nothing but ice stretching to every horizon. There were no other ships, no modern radio communications, no satellites ready to launch a rescue mission. At that moment, their only hope of survival rested on their own determination. After nearly 10 months trapped in the ice, Endurance could no longer withstand the crushing pressure. In November 1915, the wooden hull finally gave way. The ship was crushed by the immense force of the ice before slowly sinking beneath the dark, freezing waters of the Weddell Sea as the entire crew watched helplessly. Losing the ship meant losing almost everything. All they had left were a few lifeboats, limited food supplies, and an unwavering determination to survive at any cost. At that critical moment, Shackleton made a decision that would later become one of history's greatest examples of leadership under extreme circumstances. He ordered everyone to abandon nearly all of their personal belongings in order to lighten their load. The dream of conquering Antarctica was over. From that moment on, there was only one mission: bring every member of the expedition home alive. For the following months, the men lived on drifting ice floes carried by ocean currents. They hunted seals and penguins for food and burned animal fat to keep warm. Every single day became a battle against freezing temperatures, starvation, and despair. Finally, in April 1916, as the sea ice began to break apart, the crew launched their 3 lifeboats and battled through treacherous waters until they reached Elephant Island in the South Shetland Islands of Antarctica. It was the first time in more than a year that they had set foot on solid ground. But there was one devastating problem. The island was completely uninhabited, meaning they were still far from being rescued. Realizing that waiting any longer would only lead to death from hunger and exposure, Shackleton made an almost unimaginable decision. He and 5 companions set off in a lifeboat measuring only about 22.5 feet long, embarking on a journey of more than 750 miles across some of the most dangerous waters on Earth to reach South Georgia Island, a British overseas territory in the South Atlantic. And that's when the miracle began. After more than 2 weeks battling towering waves, violent storms, and blizzards, Shackleton and his crew successfully reached the island. But their ordeal still wasn't over. They then crossed mountain ranges that had never before been traversed to reach the nearest whaling station and organize a rescue mission. After several failed attempts caused by heavy sea ice, Shackleton finally returned to Elephant Island in August 1916. What happened next amazed the entire world. All 22 men who had remained on the island were still alive. Not a single member of the expedition lost their life after nearly 2 years of battling the harshest environment on Earth. It is because of this extraordinary story that Endurance became far more than just a ship. It became a symbol of human endurance, courage, and the refusal to give up in the face of impossible odds. So when the Endurance 22 expedition located the wreck in 2022, their emotions went far beyond simply discovering a historic artifact. It was as though they had reopened a doorway leading back to one of the greatest survival stories of the 20th century. Perhaps even more astonishing is the ship's remarkable condition. After spending more than a century beneath the sea, the frigid waters, almost entirely free of wood-eating marine organisms, preserved Endurance in an extraordinary state. The ship's name is still clearly visible across the stern, making it look as though it had sunk only yesterday. Isn't that truly incredible? But while Endurance tells an unforgettable story of human perseverance amid Antarctica's frozen wilderness, the next discovery opens the door to an entirely different mystery. It begins with the skull and femur of an indigenous Chilean woman discovered on Livingston Island in Antarctica's South Shetland Islands. The question that puzzled scientists for years was simple yet extraordinary. How could a young woman from southern Chile have reached one of the most remote places on Earth in the early 19th century? Let's find out what the evidence reveals. The mysterious remains of the Chilean woman, the first woman to set foot in Antarctica. Leaving behind the Weddell Sea and the inspiring story of the Endurance, we now come to a discovery that is much smaller in size but took archaeologists many years to unravel. It was nothing more than a human skull and part of a femur. Yet these remains open the door to a fascinating mystery about the earliest people who may have set foot on the frozen continent. The discovery was made on Livingston Island, part of the South Shetland Islands, just off the Antarctic Peninsula. This region lies at the southernmost reaches of the Earth, where harsh weather prevails year-round, with powerful winds, thick ice and snow, and persistently frigid temperatures. It was on a beach along this island that researchers, during the 1980s, uncovered a human skull and a section of a femur that had been buried beneath the ice for nearly 2 centuries. At first glance, many assumed the remains belonged to a sailor who had perished during the early age of Antarctic exploration. However, when experts began analyzing the DNA, carbon isotopes, and bone structure, the results came as a complete surprise. According to the research, the remains belonged to a young woman, approximately 21 years old, whose ancestry traced back to southern Chile, the country occupying the southern tip of South America. What made the discovery even more remarkable was that her homeland was located more than 620 miles across the ocean from where her remains were found. Radiocarbon dating indicated that she died sometime between 1819 and 1825. This means she was present in Antarctica during the very earliest years of human exploration of the continent. To this day, her remains are still considered among the oldest human remains ever discovered in Antarctica. But that only raises an even bigger question. How could a young indigenous woman from southern Chile have crossed more than 620 miles of the freezing Southern Ocean to reach Antarctica in the early 19th century? At that time, there were no modern icebreakers, no GPS navigation, and no sophisticated search and rescue systems. Even European expeditions, equipped with large ships and extensive supplies, struggled to survive in Antarctica's unforgiving conditions. So how did a young woman end up at the end of the world? According to Chilean researchers, the most plausible explanation is that she may have traveled with seal hunters operating in the South Atlantic during the early 19th century. This was also the period when British sea captain William Smith discovered the South Shetland Islands in 1819, triggering a boom in commercial seal hunting throughout the region. Historical records show that seal hunting crews frequently sailed through the waters south of Chile and maintained close relationships with indigenous communities. They traded goods, particularly seal skins, and occasionally hired indigenous people to serve as navigators or assist during their voyages. For that reason, many scientists believe the young woman may have joined one of these expeditions in a supporting role. Even so, this remains only a hypothesis. No surviving ship's logs from those earliest voyages have been preserved in sufficient detail to confirm exactly what happened. Melissa Salerno, an archaeologist with Argentina's National Scientific and Technical Research Council, has noted that the relationship between seal hunters and indigenous communities in southern Chile has been documented in numerous studies. However, determining the precise reason this young woman ended up in Antarctica remains an unanswered question. There is only one thing that seems almost certain: she never made it home. As you can imagine, surviving in Antarctica more than 200 years ago was extraordinarily difficult. A single blizzard, an accident at sea, or just a few days without enough food could easily claim a person's life. The skull and femur that remain today are among the only surviving traces of someone who was lost forever at the end of the world. The secret alien base in Antarctica? My friends, one question has fueled debate among both scientists and the general public for decades. Do extraterrestrials really exist? Some people believe that in a universe as vast as ours, it's hard to imagine that Earth is the only planet capable of supporting life. Others argue that until we have solid, verifiable evidence, the idea remains nothing more than a hypothesis. That's why whenever something unusual appears in a remote place like Antarctica, it quickly captures the attention of millions of people around the world. One such discovery emerged in 2017 when a group of UFO enthusiasts claimed they had found a massive object using imagery from Google Maps. According to their observations, a structure approximately 1,640 feet long could be seen in a region of Antarctica, resembling an enormous block of ice protruding from the ground. At first glance, many people assumed it was simply an ordinary ice formation. The UFO researchers, however, offered a very different interpretation. They argued that the object's shape was unusually symmetrical and unlike the surrounding ice formations. Because of this, they believed it could actually be the roof of a secret base that had remained buried beneath the Antarctic ice for a very long time. The group even published the coordinates where they claimed the mysterious structure could be found: 72 degrees 43 minutes, 13.53 seconds, south, 78 degrees 40 minutes, 21.56 seconds west. Within a short time, images of the site spread rapidly across UFO forums and attracted millions of views. But that was only the beginning. In 2020, Scott C. Waring, a well-known figure in the UFO community, sparked another wave of online excitement after claiming he had discovered a giant being using Google Earth. According to Waring, satellite imagery revealed what appeared to be a figure standing about 66 feet tall beside an entrance approximately 72 feet high. He argued that this was no coincidence. Instead, he claimed the figure was an extraterrestrial standing guard outside the entrance to a hidden underground base. The alleged discovery was quickly published on two well-known UFO blogs, ET Database and UFO Sightings Daily. Almost immediately, the internet split into two camps. Some people believed the images might represent the first real evidence of extraterrestrial life on Earth. Others argued that what people were seeing was nothing more than an optical illusion created by lighting conditions, shadows, and Antarctica's icy terrain. It seemed as though the story might end there. But just 1 year later, in 2021, another group of UFO enthusiasts made yet another remarkable claim. This time, using Google Earth, they reported discovering an unusual geometric structure located about 112 miles off the Antarctic coast. What caught their attention was a network of nearly perpendicular straight lines, giving the appearance of walls or corridors belonging to a man-made structure. According to the information they released, the location of the formation was 63 degrees, 59 minutes, 56.79 seconds south, 118 degrees, 43 minutes, 44.48 seconds east. Those promoting the theory argued that a closer look suggested the structure lay beneath the water. They speculated that it may once have been built on dry land long ago before changing sea levels and melting ice eventually submerged the entire complex. From there, increasingly bold theories began to emerge. Some suggested it was a research facility built by an extraterrestrial civilization. Others believed Antarctica had once been home to an incredibly advanced ancient civilization before it was buried beneath vast sheets of ice. Some even argued that if future expeditions explored this exact location using modern technology, they might uncover evidence unlike anything humanity has ever seen. By now, many of you are probably wondering, do these images actually prove the existence of aliens? As of today, the scientific community's answer is no. Geologists and glaciologists explain that the formations visible in Google Earth imagery can be naturally produced by fractured ice, rocky terrain beneath the ice sheet, lighting effects, or limitations in satellite image quality. To date, there is no scientific evidence confirming the existence of an alien base in Antarctica. The mysterious door buried deep beneath Antarctica's snow. If our previous story focused on strange structures that some people believed were alien bases, the next discovery also began with satellite imagery, but this time it created an even bigger stir across the internet. With nothing more than a single image from Google Earth, millions of people became convinced that a gigantic doorway existed in the vast frozen wilderness of Antarctica, as though it were the entrance to a hidden world buried deep beneath the ice. The story began when a Google Earth user accidentally spotted a very unusual shape in East Antarctica, near Japan's Showa research station. Within hours of being shared online, especially on Reddit, the image spread at an incredible pace. Thousands of people rushed to the coordinates 69 degrees 0 minutes, 50 seconds south, 39 degrees 36 minutes 22 seconds east to see the mysterious feature for themselves. At first glance, it's easy to understand why the image shocked so many viewers. In the middle of an endless expanse of white snow appeared a dark formation that looked remarkably like a gigantic doorway. Viewed from above, it resembled the entrance to an artificial structure that had been buried beneath the Antarctic ice for thousands of years. And just as with many other Antarctic mysteries, countless theories quickly began to emerge. People confidently claimed it was the entrance to a secret alien base. Others suggested it was the hiding place of Bigfoot, the legendary creature featured in countless myths and stories. Some even compared it to the science fiction franchise Star Trek, arguing that the object looked exactly like a space shuttle trapped beneath the ice. Many internet users took a more humorous approach, joking that it was simply the missing door from a Boeing airplane that had flown off during a widely publicized aviation incident. Although these comments were made in jest, they demonstrated just how captivating the image had become. After all, whenever people encounter something that doesn't have an immediate explanation, human imagination tends to know no limits. While social media continued debating the mystery, scientists quickly began investigating the phenomenon. One of the first experts to weigh in was Professor Bethan Davies, a glaciologist at Newcastle University in the United Kingdom. After examining the exact coordinates in Google Earth Pro and comparing satellite images taken over several years, she concluded that the so-called door was not a man-made structure. According to Professor Davies, what people were actually seeing was a large iceberg that had become grounded in that area. Over time, the combined effects of temperature changes, wind, and ocean currents gradually melted the iceberg in place, creating patterns that happened to resemble the outline of a doorway when viewed from above. She also explained that the waters near Showa Research Station frequently contain icebergs of many different shapes and sizes. When combined with sunlight and the viewing angle of satellite imagery, these ice formations can easily create the illusion of artificial structures. Not long afterward, Professor Martin Siegert, co-director of the Grantham Institute for Climate Change and the Environment at Imperial College London, reached a similar conclusion. According to him, the so-called door was actually the result of ice melting around an obstacle buried beneath the solid ice sheet. As temperatures fluctuate, meltwater freezes and refreezes, while powerful katabatic winds, the intense downslope winds characteristic of Antarctica that can reach extremely high speeds, gradually erode the ice into unusually shaped formations. In other words, the mysterious door is a completely natural phenomenon, even though its appearance is convincing enough to fool both the human eye and the imagination. But the story doesn't end there. Another expert, Professor John Smelly, a volcanologist and Antarctic geologist, examined the area and proposed an even more specific explanation. According to him, the door is actually nothing more than the exposed face of a short rocky ridge. In the past, the entire outcrop was covered by a thick layer of ice. As the ice gradually melted over time, part of the rocky slope became exposed, creating the illusion of a massive doorway opening in the middle of the frozen landscape. Professor Smelly also emphasized that there is no evidence whatsoever linking the site to extraterrestrials or any kind of secret man-made structure. All of the more sensational theories, he explained, arise simply from the way people interpret satellite images. By this point, some viewers may feel a little disappointed after learning the scientific explanation. Personally, though, I think this discovery is fascinating nonetheless. Sometimes, the most exciting part isn't uncovering a hidden base or a lost civilization. Sometimes, it's realizing that nature itself can create formations so extraordinary that they deceive not only our eyes, but also our imaginations. And Antarctica has always been that kind of place. Sometimes all it takes is an iceberg, a mountain ridge, or a crack in the ice viewed from just the right angle to make millions of people around the world stop and start asking questions. And who knows, perhaps those very questions are what continue to drive science forward in its search for the unknown. So what about you? If you had been one of the first people to see this mysterious door before hearing the scientists' explanation, would you have assumed it was simply a natural formation? Or would you have suspected that something far more mysterious was hidden beneath the Antarctic ice? Let me know what you think in the comments below. 60 million icefish nests beneath the Antarctic seafloor, a giant ecosystem that astonished scientists. The story began on January 13, 2022, while surveying the Filchner ice shelf region of the Weddell Sea. They discovered the largest icefish breeding colony ever recorded in the history of ocean research. At first, the expedition was simply conducting a routine survey of the seafloor, much like many previous missions. No one expected that beneath those deep, frigid waters lay an enormous ecosystem that had been quietly thriving for thousands of years. To carry out the research, the scientists used the Ocean Floor Observation and Bathymetry System, OFOBS, a seafloor survey instrument weighing nearly 1 ton. The system was towed behind the German research icebreaker RV Polarstern, capturing high-resolution images while simultaneously mapping the ocean floor using sonar. When the first images appeared on the monitors in the control room, the research team could hardly believe what they were seeing. The screens revealed thousands of nearly identical circular depressions packed closely together, stretching across the seafloor as far as the cameras could see. As the survey continued, more and more nests came into view. After several days of collecting data, the researchers reached a conclusion that stunned the scientific community. The nesting colony covered an area of at least 93 square miles, roughly the equivalent of tens of thousands of soccer fields placed side by side. Scientists estimated that the area contained approximately 60 million icefish nests during the breeding season, making it the largest known fish breeding colony ever documented on Earth. Just imagine it. On the dark, freezing ocean floor, where water temperatures remain below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, tens of millions of fish families are raising the next generation at the same time. Simply picturing it is enough to appreciate how extraordinary nature truly is. One of the scientists who took part in the expedition was Autumn Purser, a researcher at the Alfred Wegener Institute in Bremerhaven, Germany. He explained that during many years of Antarctic research, his team had encountered icefish nests in various locations, but they had never imagined discovering a breeding colony of this magnitude. According to Purser, this was the most significant finding of the expedition because it demonstrated that Antarctica's icy waters still harbor enormous ecosystems that humanity has yet to fully understand. Another fascinating detail was that nearly all of the nests shared the same basic design. Each nest consisted of a shallow circular depression dug into the seafloor. Inside were approximately 1,700 eggs, while a single adult icefish remained nearby, standing guard. Throughout the egg's development, the parent fish rarely left the nest, continuously protecting the next generation from predators. For many researchers, it was an incredibly moving sight. Even in one of the harshest environments on Earth, life continues to survive, reproduce, and protect itself through nature's powerful instincts. That led scientists to ask another important question: why were so many icefish gathering in this particular location? After analyzing oceanographic data, the research team uncovered something remarkable. Directly beneath the nesting colony flowed a current of water that was about 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than the surrounding ocean. That may not sound like much, but in Antarctica, even a temperature difference of just a few degrees can dramatically affect marine habitats. This warmer current carried a rich supply of nutrients, creating ideal conditions for millions of ice fish to gather and reproduce. The discoveries didn't stop there. During the survey, scientists also found numerous dead ice fish scattered throughout the area. This suggested that the site serves not only as a breeding ground, but also as a crucial link in Antarctica's marine food web. Purser and his colleagues proposed that this massive icefish colony may be a primary food source for the Weddell seal, one of Antarctica's best-known marine predators. When they compared their findings with tracking data collected from satellite tags attached to Weddell seals, they noticed that the seals frequently swam directly to the nesting area and repeatedly dived to the same depths. These observations strongly supported the idea that Weddell seals rely heavily on this enormous icefish population for food. The discovery has done far more than improve scientists' understanding of Antarctica's marine ecosystem. It has also opened the door to important conservation efforts. Following publication of the study, many researchers proposed that the waters surrounding the Filchner ice shelf should receive special protected status in the future. Their concern is straightforward. If this unique ecosystem were damaged by human activity or climate change, the consequences could ripple throughout the entire Southern Ocean food web. Today, the research team continues monitoring the nesting colony using 2 long-term underwater camera systems installed on the seafloor. They hope the data collected over time will answer even more questions about how Antarctic icefish reproduce, protect their young, and adapt to one of the harshest environments anywhere on Earth. As you can see, sometimes the discoveries that leave us speechless aren't ancient legends or sensational theories. They're the wonders that nature has quietly created all along, and Antarctica has always been that kind of place. The more we explore it, the more we realize that beneath its frozen ice lie countless extraordinary secrets still waiting to be discovered. An 800-year-old penguin mummy cemetery. After witnessing the enormous ecosystem of 60 million icefish nests beneath the Weddell Sea, we now move on to another discovery that is just as astonishing. This time, however, the secret wasn't hidden beneath the ocean floor. Instead, it lay buried beneath Antarctica's thick blanket of snow for hundreds of years. Had it not been for the melting ice and snow observed in recent decades, these remains might have continued sleeping beneath the surface, and no one would ever have known they existed. The discovery was made at Irizar Point, south of the Drygalski ice tongue, along the coast near Scott Island in the Ross Sea, Antarctica. This is a region battered year-round by bitterly cold winds and covered in snow and ice for nearly the entire year. It was in this seemingly lifeless landscape of rock and ice that scientists uncovered an extraordinary cemetery. The first person to document the site was Stephen Emsley, a researcher specializing in penguins. During a field expedition, he unexpectedly came across numerous Adelie penguin carcasses scattered across the ground. What surprised him most was their condition. Some consisted of nothing more than skeletons. Others, however, still retained their original shape, complete with feathers and soft tissue, looking as though they had died only recently. Imagine stumbling upon dozens of nearly intact penguin bodies in one of the harshest and most barren places on Earth. Anyone would immediately ask the same question: what happened here? At first, Stephen Emsley believed the remains might belong to a relatively modern Adelie penguin colony that had once lived in the area. But after comparing the site with historical records, he quickly noticed something unusual. Ever since the British explorer Robert Falcon Scott and his expedition visited the Ross Sea region between 1901 and 1903, there has never been a documented Adelie penguin colony at Irizar Point. In other words, these birds appeared to belong to a much more distant past. As the researchers examined the area more closely, they discovered countless chick bones, feathers, eggshell fragments, and fossilized guano buried beneath the snow. Together, these remains revealed that the site had once been a major breeding colony for Adelie penguins. One particularly intriguing clue was the presence of numerous small piles of pebbles scattered across the landscape. To an ordinary observer, they looked like nothing more than simple rock piles. To the researchers, however, they were one of the most important pieces of evidence. Unlike many birds that build nests from sticks and vegetation, Adelie penguins construct their nests using small stones. The pebbles keep their eggs elevated above the freezing ground and prevent direct contact with the ice below. Long after the penguins leave, these stone nests remain exactly where they were built, preserving the locations of breeding sites that are centuries old. Recognizing the importance of the discovery, Stephen Emsley and his colleagues decided to carry out a meticulous excavation. He explained that the team approached the site much like archaeologists. Layer by layer, they carefully removed soil and gravel to recover bones, soft tissue, feathers, eggshells, and even fish bones preserved inside fossilized penguin droppings. Every sample was then analyzed using radiocarbon dating. The results astonished the entire research team. The evidence showed that Adelie penguins had nested at this location during at least 3 separate periods. The most recent colony disappeared approximately 800 years ago. That means that 8 centuries ago, a place now covered almost entirely by snow and ice was once an ideal habitat where penguins raised their young. Then something changed. Scientists believe increasing snowfall gradually buried the entire nesting area. Many chicks died during the breeding season and were entombed beneath deep layers of snow. Antarctica's extremely low temperatures and exceptionally dry climate unintentionally transformed their remains into natural mummies, preserving them in remarkable condition for centuries. Perhaps even more incredible is the fact that these remains only began to emerge in recent years as the ice and snow gradually melted. According to climate records, since the 1980s, average temperatures in the Ross Sea region have risen by approximately 2.7 to 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Satellite images collected over the past decade have also shown that Irizar Point has become increasingly exposed as its snow cover has receded. These environmental changes have finally given scientists access to evidence that had remained buried for hundreds of years. For Stephen Emsley, the discovery does far more than reconstruct the history of an ancient penguin colony. It also provides valuable new clues about Antarctica's changing climate. By determining when penguins arrived and when they abandoned the colony, scientists can better understand how environmental conditions in this region have evolved over the past several centuries. In many ways, these penguin mummies are like a diary preserved by nature itself. They cannot speak, yet every skeleton, every feather, and every fragment of eggshell tells the story of an Antarctica that was very different from the one we know today. As you can see, beneath Antarctica's seemingly silent ice, time has been quietly preserving memories of the past. And with every little bit of ice that melts away, we may uncover another missing piece of the history of this frozen continent. Melting ice can certainly be alarming, but it also gives us remarkable opportunities to discover stories that have remained hidden for centuries. Isn't that fascinating? The mysterious island no one knew existed. In February 2020, Antarctica experienced an unprecedented heat wave. Temperatures rose unusually high across several regions, causing glaciers and ice shelves to melt more rapidly than normal. It was during this period that something extraordinary happened. While conducting research at Thwaites Glacier in Pine Island Bay in western Antarctica, scientists unexpectedly discovered an entirely new island emerging from the sea. The most astonishing part was that no one had known the island even existed. For centuries, perhaps even thousands of years, the entire island had remained buried beneath a massive sheet of ice. Only after the ice began to retreat did its summit finally emerge. Just imagine it. An entire landmass had been there all along, hidden beneath the ice, invisible to satellites and undiscovered by every expedition that had ever passed through the area. Only when nature changed did it reveal itself to humanity for the very first time. That is exactly what happened with this island. The research team working offshore near Thwaites Glacier became the first people ever to set foot on it. According to their initial observations, the island measured approximately 1,150 feet in length. Most of it remained covered by ice, with only a section of brown volcanic rock rising above the endless white landscape, creating a truly striking scene. As soon as they landed, the scientists began collecting rock samples to determine how the island had formed. Laboratory analysis revealed that the island is composed primarily of volcanic granite. This confirmed that it was not an iceberg or some newly formed feature, but rather a long-existing portion of Earth's crust that had simply remained hidden beneath the ice. In addition to the rock samples, the team also discovered valuable geological evidence that provided new insights into the region's geological history. All of the collected samples were taken back to the laboratory for further analysis. Following this important discovery, the scientists named the island Cif Island, after Cif, the Norse goddess associated with the earth and fertility. According to Sarah Slack, a member of the research team, the discovery of Cif Island came as a complete surprise. She explained, "This is a really exciting discovery. It clearly reflects the changes taking place in Antarctica and shows that this region is changing much faster than many people once believed." One particularly fascinating detail is that the island is large enough to have been easily detected by satellites if it had not been hidden beneath the ice. Yet for decades, no satellite image had ever revealed its existence. Only after the thick ice sheet began retreating did Cif Island gradually separate from the surrounding ice shelf and emerge as what appeared to be an entirely new piece of land. Another member of the research team, Peter Neff, used Google Earth imagery to compare how the region had changed over time. His analysis showed that since 2011, the ice shelf in Pine Island Bay has steadily retreated. As the ice pulled back, the underlying bedrock slowly became exposed until it eventually stood alone as an independent island surrounded by the sea. The discovery also provides clear visual evidence that Antarctica's landscape is far from permanent. As you've seen, Antarctica is far more than just a land of ice, snow, and bitter cold. It's a place that continues to hide countless secrets capable of astonishing the entire world. Every new discovery helps us better understand Earth's history, yet at the same time, it raises even more questions that remain unanswered. Who knows? Right now, beneath those massive sheets of ice, there may still be even greater mysteries waiting for humanity to uncover. What do you think? Do you believe Antarctica is still hiding incredible secrets? Or do you see this frozen continent in a different way? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed journeys of discovery like this one, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Ancient History, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our upcoming adventures. Until next time, thanks for watching and goodbye.